Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Business of Gaming podcast. Today, we are at Tribe Comics and Games in Austin, Texas. I'm Josh from Game Haven Guild. I'm here with Eric, one of the owners who's been running the store for almost 17 years. Tell us about the beginning. What got you into the idea of wanting to start a game store?
That's a very long story, so I will try to make it as short as possible. I don't know. In my 20s, I was at UT. I was studying to become a teacher. I did really bad one semester. They said, hey, you got to take a semester off. I said, okay. My local comic and game store said, hey, we're hiring. I was like, well, I need something to do for a semester because I'm not going to be in school. And so I went to work for them, and I enjoyed the work. And I worked for them about 10 years and worked all the way up to the general manager for the company. So my best friend, who was also working there as the manager of the Austin location, he was like, hey, why don't we open up our own store? My wife was like, that's a great idea. And I was like, in this town with Austin Books and Dragon's Lair, you want to open up a third store and you think we're going to make it? They're like, I think so. There's nothing in South Austin. It's pretty empty. And I was like, I don't know. I'd love to run our own store, but they convinced me that South Austin was open at the time. The only thing here was Junior's Comics and Cards, which is mostly a card shop that sells some comics and a very, very maybe two racks of board games and role playing games. So they're mostly about cards and back issues. And I was like, okay, well, you're right. South Austin seems empty. And so we came south. We opened up in the sister complex of this complex right across the street in a little place, probably, a third to a fourth this size. It was very small and narrow.
How big is this store that we're in?
Officially, we're 3,100, but that includes the office, the two rather large bathrooms, and the storage closet. So I would bet floor space-wise, we're probably closer to 27.
And of your floor space, you're about half of it as playing space versus...
Yes, I'm probably roughly a third playing space, a third comics and graphic novels, and then a third games, although the games, because of the way the play space had to be thing, is kind of stretched almost the way around. So when you first come in, it looks like, oh, wow, there are way more games in here than there are comics. But it's just because comics I can put in a much smaller area.
Well, take us back to the first shop. How was the first shop set up in terms of that dynamic? A lot of play space or not a lot?
No play space. It was 1,200 square feet, I think. It was very tiny. We had, and it was just shaped like a rectangle.
Yeah.
So we basically went comics, then games, except in the front, just to the right of the door, we had a single square table, probably half the size of this table, with two chairs at it. That we used for lunch. But I also told anybody, well, if you want to try to play a game there, you can. We of course needed to do something for the community if we were going to try to build it. Our friend Jonathan came up with an idea, and he was like, "Why don't you talk to what was then Rockin' Tomato over here, and see if they're pretty slow on Tuesday nights. Maybe I can coordinate a board game at Rockin' Tomato sponsored by Tribe Comics and Games."
Yeah.
I was like, well, if you think you can pull it off, they may not like the idea of people just hanging out there all night.
Right.
Turned out Tuesdays was a very slow night. We gave them the pick, and they picked Tuesdays. So they didn't mind that the players were hanging there all night. And so for about 6 years while we were at that spot, that's what we did. Then they started getting some friction at Rockin' Tomato. About the same time, this space came open in what we call the Big Boy Complex. Because obviously it's a lot more traffic.
Yeah.
We were debating whether to re-up our lease in the small one or move. And this was going to be significantly more expensive. And our friend Jonathan, again, who was going to school to be an accountant, was like, hey, man, one of the things I have to do for my class this semester is a project, do a business analysis. What if I sit down, I do a business analysis about what it would be like if y'all moved across the street, how much money you'd have to bring in, what the foot traffic's like, all of that. I was like, sure. So he did the analysis. It looked good.
Right.
So we made the jump over and stopped doing it at Rockin' Tomato and started doing it in here. And then our play spaces fluctuated between this many tables, We used to have another table right there, but we needed to expand role-playing games. And then I think there was another table, I think right where manga is.
So you've got about 9 tables, each one's seating 4 to 6 people.
Yes.
You can fit a pretty big crowd in here.
Yes, we can. And there have been times, not lately, not post-pandemic, but pre-pandemic, there were times in here where it's just a wall of noise because every table's filled.
Well, that first opening period, first day, week, month, right? What did that look like from trying to drive interest in the store? Was there a community waiting to get in since there wasn't anything here on the south side, or what?
There were some people who were customers at the previous store we went to that knew Roy and I, and that we're south, and we're like, oh, well, Roy and Eric left Dragon's Lair. That's where we were. We want to follow them. So they followed us. But most of it, we were just having to build up. And in the early days, the thing that worked the best was, at the time, The Onion had a print magazine. And it was only, I don't know, 20, 25 pages. It wasn't very thick, not like the Chronicle is. And they were offering very inexpensive ads. So we were taking out quarter-page ads in The Onion. And The Onion apparently was being read by roughly the same crowd as the Chronicle, because people will come in all the time and they'd be like, I saw your ad in the Chronicle. No, you saw us in The Onion. But it was much easier to see us in The Onion because there's only 20 pages. There's maybe 3 pages of ads versus the Chronicle.
So that local the local print, local advertising was the big.
It really helped put us on the map. And then once we moved over here, 6 years later, the difference in foot traffic was insane. And Kirby Lane and Torchy's Tacos bring in so many people. And so they would see The Hand, or they would see the Comics and Games. And they would come in.
Well, tell us about The Hand. Tell us about how Tribe come up. How's the Hand is the symbol for the store.
It is the symbol for the store. So this is it's our group of friends. So our group of friends, since we've been in our 20s, we're the same group of people. We've been having a Saturday night, either board game or role-playing game night since our 20s. We still do it to this day. But in our 20s, a good chunk of the group thought they were going to be, artists or tours, and they wanted to start a production company, and we'll be able to produce music and movies the way we want, and TV shows. And they went so far as to design a logo, which was The Hand, and call themselves Tribe Productions. I think they ended up getting a friend they knew that had a band to we'll handle your advertising. They wrote a movie script that went nowhere. There were too many chefs in the kitchen. Years later, Roy and I decided to open up a store and get to what I think is the hardest question. What are you going to call yourselves? Because that's going to be all about identity. And I, from the very beginning, was like, look, dude, all of our friends are helping us do this. They were the ones that helped do the construction, all the manual labor. I was like, we just call ourselves Tribe Comics and Games. I mean, it's our philosophy. We're all a big tribe. We want everybody to be welcome. I think this really captures what we are. And he's like, I don't know. It's not very comic booky. And he had settled on a fantasy name based off our role-playing group. And he really liked that. And he thought, that's kind of fantasy. I think people will be more like, ooh, what's that? And I was like, I kept coming back to Tribe. So he agreed for Tribe as a placeholder in case we couldn't find anything better. And I kept working on him, and eventually he came around and was right. He was like, no, I mean, I see what you're saying. It is the philosophy we're trying to put forward. And that made for good branding. Plus, The Hand is a very good image. We didn't have a good image of the original logo, so another one of our friends was like, oh, that's easy. He just dipped his hand in red paint, smacked it on a sheet of paper, took an early, I guess at 17 years ago, would have been a very early digital camera, took a picture of it, uploaded it to his computer, smacked out a logo for it, and sent it to us. And I was like, thanks, man. And that's how it happened.
Very cool. Well, that vision you talk about, right? Tribe, community building, things along those lines. How has that maybe changed over the years, or has it changed in what ways over the years?
That's a good question. It has changed over the years. One is there's now a lot more game stores in South Austin.
Yeah.
So the competition for places have been a lot more pressing on us. The other thing is that the pandemic actually, at least here, I don't know about other stores, but here made a seismic shift in the patterns for our gamers.
No. Okay.
Before the pandemic, D&D night was our best night. It was insane. We would fill up all 9 tables. Sometimes we'd have to put a table up at that couch over there. There would be 60 people in here playing D&D. Our board game night was filled to the brim. We had a decent Magic night, and then we had a couple pockets of Magic that played other days in the day.
Yeah.
And nobody played minis. We had 2 guys that came in on our mini nights, and we kept switching. X-Wing for a while was popular, but then it died down. We could never get anybody to do 40K because we didn't have any terrain or the big tables.
Yeah.
Kill Team wasn't a thing yet. Post-pandemic, all of our Magic people, both our sponsored Magic and then our independent Magic nights, or independent Magic groups, I should say, all disappeared.
Really?
And our D&D collapsed on itself almost. I mean, now we get maybe 2 or 3 tables.
Yeah.
But our minis night exploded.
Really?
And now that is our most popular night. We get all tables are all filled with different kill team going on. There's another minis game. It's based off the new Cyberpunk video game.
The 2077.
Yeah, the 2077 stuff. But apparently the guy that really loved Kill Team has started playing that. And he said they took kind of all the Kill Team ideas, made the right kind of changes.
Yeah.
And so he's been really pushing people for that. Another guy did a trench warfare game, and that proved really popular. But that's become our best night.
Really?
Lots of people coming out, people getting excited. And, we had to officially stop being a WotC Play Store because post-pandemic, we weren't getting the numbers. WotC has benchmarks.
Can you explain what WotC?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Wizards of the Coast, the people that make Magic.
Yeah.
To be an official Play Store, they have benchmarks. And 2 of their most important benchmarks is you have to have a minimum number of unique players every week. In addition to, you have to have a certain number of new unique player IDs coming in.
Okay.
And you have to do both these things in concert over a month. And you have to hit these certain benchmarks. And depending on the benchmark, that is how big or small your event can be. That's how much product they'll provide for prizes.
Yeah.
How much, you get for pre-release. And we weren't hitting it post-pandemic. And they were like, okay, we've kind of relaxed the post-pandemic rules, but you're still just right under the mark. And I was like, look, I would love to keep doing Magic here, but the people aren't coming in. I can't make them come in. And they were like, well, we're going to have to cut you off. And I was like, well, I understand. And then the few people that we had, they left to go to the places where you can get the cool cards.
Yeah. Customers you focus on serving then, it sounds like it's changed a ton, and the big catalyst was the pandemic within that.
Yes.
Now in your store, you've got a significant comic book section, a significant gaming section. How do you see your store mix kind of operate in terms of customers right now?
It's probably, strangely enough, we have probably stayed the same level of mix, which is roughly 60-40, maybe 55-45.
Okay.
Part of that is because comics are a weekly thing.
Yeah.
So you have people coming back all the time for that. Where games, as you know, being somebody who loves games, you can't depend on games to come out in any kind of timely manner.
Right.
At all. And so that makes them a bit more sporadic, which makes the comic side a little stronger, both in terms of people and in things.
Let's sit on back to, you mentioned, you're hosting some nights here. You do Magic nights. Now you've got a specific minis night.
Yeah.
What does an event schedule or how much does your business model depend on special events versus the customers just coming in to play games themselves or look around?
Almost 100% on customers coming and looking around.
Yeah.
We occasionally will do a special event. Usually it's player driven. Somebody comes up with an idea. They're like, oh my God, I would love to host something here. And they ask, can we set aside a Saturday? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And we've done some of those, and they're usually good for business. But we're so small, mom and pop. There's only 4 of us, and so we do not go out of our way to court special events, which may be a weakness on our part, but it does mean that we have a lot. Like in the daytime, we have a lot of table space for people to be able to just come in and play, and that happens a lot in the summer. Happens less, of course, during the school year.
Right. So your note on the games, right? It's very unstable in terms of the timeline on when they come out, how often they come out. How do you look at your assortment and fill out an assortment based on, what's popular, what's new, what will sell? What do you take chances on? How do you think about that?
Roy is usually the one that handles doing the game order. We used to do it together, but over the intervening years, his game knowledge started eclipsing mine because he, less so about board games than role-playing games, but he loves reading the rule systems. He really loves that. And I start to fall asleep. So our game knowledge starts eclipsing. There are, of course, companies that we tend to, this is, like if something's coming out from the people that make Settlers Catan, we're like, okay, we know that's going to sell well. Ticket to Ride, we know that's going to sell well. The people that make Terraforming Mars, I forget their name, but if they come out with a new game, we'll try it out. Evil Hat Productions, who used to make Mice and Mystics and Robinson Crusoe, they're a company that we'll generally gamble on. But now, especially in the Kickstarter era, it's kind of become almost Wild West, and there are so many small, new game people that we really are just shooting blind based off whatever tiny ass paragraph is in Meeple Monthly, Alliance's game catalog that they send out. There are a couple other catalogs that come in, and you kind of get that one paragraph to just kind of guess, okay, does this sound cool? Does it not sound cool?
On that specifically, so you're buying a lot of these through a group of distributors, a certain distributor?
Mostly Alliance, although we do go through ACD.
Okay.
And then, of course, Asmodee controls insane amount of the market share, and you have to go through them. They do deal with some of the others, but they cut their percentage significantly if you go through one of the other people. So we deal with Asmodee directly. So those are the 3 big ones that we work with.
Any particular games that have come out that you were really excited for and did not do well, and or vice versa? Anything caught you off guard in the last few years?
Fortune Glory now is really old. That came out, and that was such an amazingly good game, and I thought it would do well. And it did not do well, which is too bad. It's such a fantastic game. Kind of in the same token, though I haven't gotten to play it yet, Unfathomable, which is Fantasy Flight's reskin of their popular Battlestar Galactica game, which is an amazing game. But they, of course, lost the rights to Battlestar Galactica, but it's still an amazing rule system. So they reskinned it as you're on a ship passage, like a steamer ship, with Cthulhu cultists. So same idea, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that would do well, given how popular Battlestar Galactica as a game system was.
Yeah.
And it just has not consistently, it sells okay, but nowhere near what Battlestar Galactica sold, given that it's almost the exact same rule set.
Well, how about we talked to your early marketing?
Yeah.
The print ads. These days, what are you doing now to drive traffic? What are you doing now to try and build that community?
We've tried all sorts of stuff, and none of it seems to be working. We did radio ads last year before last. We're in 2025. I think in 2023, we did radio ads for a while. That didn't work. I did some sponsorship with KUT. They have 2 different types of sponsorships you can do. They have the business sponsorship that you always hear on their pledge drives.
Yeah.
But they also have special ones, like when they go to their breaks, they're like, Anteater Plus has helped us bring this to you. Remember Anteater Plus?
Yeah.
And so we did that.
Yeah.
Neither of those really worked. I'm constantly advertising on and off in the Chronicle. That's not working. So I actually have no idea. We are trying everything, and nothing seems to be driving people back in.
Interesting.
It's very hard. And that seems to be, I've talked to other people, and that that seems to be where it's going. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people are saying Google ads or Facebook ads. And then other people are like, well, that's not really getting us the target clientele we want. I'm like, oh. And it's really hard in South Austin because, and this is probably unique to highly desirable big cities, but because rents skyrocketed after the pandemic as everybody could move wherever they wanted and so many people moved to South Austin,
Yeah.
it drove out a lot of our existing customers because they couldn't afford the rent. And because they couldn't afford the rent, they had to leave either Austin or they had to leave South Austin. But the new people are coming in, so we're almost back kind of where we were when we first started, where we have to find a way to connect with these new people so that they know we're here.
So how about the industry then? Industry when you first started versus now? How has that changed in terms of the business side of gaming?
The biggest change has been Kickstarter.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you've probably talked about numerous times, Kickstarter has been an amazing godsend to the gaming industry. To anybody that loves board games, role-playing games, miniatures, it's been a godsend. It has been a nightmare for retailers. You know, in the early days, they weren't doing retailer levels. Then they started doing retailer levels, but the discount was absolutely wretched. Then it would take them months after fulfillment before they could get enough stock, I guess, in again to get to distributors, to get to retailers. So if you wanted this hot game that everybody wanted, you had to back it on a retailer level.
Right.
But then the problem became you got in 6 copies, but everybody who was super excited about it backed it on the Kickstarter to get all the bonus features.
Yeah.
And they didn't want the game. So, you know, for a while we were pretty aggressive on Kickstarter, and then we kind of gave up on that after the first few waves. And now we just kind of wait for it to trickle down into distribution and get it. As a gamer, I love Kickstarters. As a retailer, I have so many mixed feelings.
So then so Kickstarters and their impact.
Yes.
Online stores. How is online over the last 10 years in particular? Have you seen a big impact? Or?
At the beginning, I think there was a very large impact. I think it has lessened somewhat. Or I shouldn't say lessened. It has plateaued. We still get people coming in occasionally being like, hey, do you price match Amazon? Where I'm usually like, no, the Amazon price is what I pay when I go to a distributor. I can't price match that. And they're like, oh, okay. But most people, I guess now have at least in our space, have gotten accustomed to the fact that the game stores can't price match. And I know there are some that do, and God bless them for doing it. I don't know how they make money at it. Especially now that so many of the distributors post-pandemic, and I understand it, their margins are getting tighter. The publishers' margins are getting tighter. So they're squeezing the retailers and decreasing our discount that we pay, so that we're paying more for games because they raise the price, but we're also getting less of a discount, so we're making less money. I don't know how anybody could price match, but I think it's died down somewhat as people have, you know, become aware that, oh, if I keep buying from Amazon, my favorite game store is not going to be around. I'm not going to be able to go in and talk about games.
I've also seen a big trend from very few game stores now don't have playable space in them as well.
Yeah.
Do you think having that playable space has been part of what's helped that trend abide?
That's a good question. Playable space is a mixed bag, because unless you are actively doing Magic tournaments that you charge entry for, or some other kind of card game you charge entry for, or you're renting the space, which we never do. If I host a game here, whether it's a tournament, whether it's just game night, we don't charge, period. I want it to be, hey, I came to town, I moved here, I'm trying to find people that like the same things I like. I don't think you should have to pay to do that. But the problem is, I mean, if you look at this space, like I said, it's about a third of the store, maybe a fourth. That's all essentially dead space. It's generating no direct income. And so to keep the space, that's a lot of money, you know, rent-wise percentage. And I can understand why game stores are eliminating their game space. and we have talked about it before. Our
Yeah.
lease came up last year, and we were seriously considering moving. And one of the things we were going to have to do was just eliminate our game space. It does help, I think, in the long run. But since there's no direct ratio of cash coming in to table space,
It's difficult to justify.
it's totally difficult to justify.
Yeah.
And there are days where I'm like, oh, we probably should have gone to a smaller space because, our rent keeps going up just like everybody else's. And South Austin is so desirable. That's another big difference between now and 17 years ago.
Yeah.
South Austin was the hillbilly place that, except for South Congress, people were like, oh yeah, South Austin, that was the cheap place to go live.
Yeah.
And North Austin was the wackadoo place you did not go to unless you wanted to pay through the nose. And it's flipped in that 17 years. And our rent correspondingly has also flipped in that 17 years.
Well, what do you think the future for physical game stores is? Where do you see it going? Where do you see your store?
Where do I see future for physical game stores? I think there's always going to be physical game stores. If for no other reason than Magic and Pokemon are still shaking the tail of the dog, or they're the tail that shakes the dog. I forget how that expression goes, but they're still driving everything. I mean, in the last 3 years, 3 stores have opened up in South Austin, specifically catering to cards. And new game store just opened up in Buda, I think within the past 2 or 3 years, and another one in Kyle in the past 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 years. So there is a hunger, at least in Austin, for game stores. I've heard in other cities, people come here and they're like, wow, y'all have such a huge gaming community. And I'm like, man, it's always been like this. There's always been this kind of rise of game stores and they go away. So I always think there's going to be game stores, if for no other reason than you can't get somebody to tell you about a game on Amazon. I mean, you can read the 2 paragraphs Amazon puts out and you can read the 50 reviews other people have put. But it is much easier to go into a game store, have the person that's there take the game off the shelf, flip to the back where they usually have a picture of the board, and then give you, as detailed as you want sometimes, an explanation on how the game runs. Or it's the only place where you're going to find other people that may have similar interests to you.
Yeah.
Are they always going to have game spaces? I think if Magic and Pokemon ever go away as far as a tournament space, there will be very few game spaces left. It'll be big stores like Dragon's Lair, just the ones that have very deep roots. That'll be able to keep that game space because rents are going to keep going up, especially here in Austin. And it's going to be a luxury most game stores can't afford to pay for.
Well, how about advice to your younger self? What would you have told yourself now, 17 years in? You're getting ready to sign that first lease. What would you tell yourself?
Oh, damn, that is a good question. What would I have told myself? I honestly don't know. Probably when we get to the very flush years, put much more aside into a reserve than you think you're going to need. We had a good reserve, but I should have put more reserve aside during the flush years when we were really hitting it high before all the competition. I don't know if I could have warned myself somehow of all the discount contractions that were going to be coming. I don't know what I could have done different because the largest discount contractions are understandably from the biggest, most important games.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can't carry it.
Right.
But if there would have been something I could have done, maybe I could have, been in the vanguard with other retailers going, hey man, you can't do this because if we go away, you won't have this. We did not talk about this when you were talking about pressures, but the fact that so many mass market stores have now realized they're leaving, millions and billions of dollars on the table by having ignored this industry for so long. If I could have warned myself about that, then I could have done more things to kind of, prepare for that eventuality. Because that's also been a really real struggle. Because, when you can go into Target and buy Settlers of Catan You know, you don't even think about going online to Google a game store. Why would you? You heard about this cool game and you go into your supermarket and it's there on the shelves. It's a very different world. But again, great world if you're into games,
Yes.
right? You know, probably also I would have more actively looked for, especially in the beginning, I would have looked for a place to have game space.
Mhm.
I don't know if we would have been able to find anything in our early days that would have been within our price range.
Yeah.
But the difference between the old shop and this shop was so huge that it would have made a much bigger difference
Early on.
early
Yeah.
on.
I got 2 get to know you questions I forgot to ask at the beginning.
Not a problem. Fire away.
In the edit, I'm probably going to put these back.
Oh, that's totally fine.
What is the first game you remember being obsessed with when you were young?
Besides Axis and Allies, which I always played with my dad,
Very good one.
there was a game called Wizards from Avalon Hill. It is so intricate and way too long and repetitive, as most early games are in the 80s, right? Even when they try to make them cool. But it was so neat. You took on the role of this wizard and you were running around this board, a typical Avalon Hill board. So you had a hex map that you built. So it was different every time you played. And you were having to complete quests to go up in power so that you could eventually challenge whatever the big bad was that I don't even remember now. I don't think we ever finished that game because it took so long once you got powerful enough to then make the journey to fight the big evil. But I loved playing that game. I loved setting up. And then of course D&D. I was obsessed with D&D.
Yeah. And now, what is the game you are currently most obsessed with?
So there are 2 answers to that.
Okay.
The first answer is probably the closer to true. Lords of Waterdeep, I think, is the best worker placement game I've ever played. And as a kind of a point to that, it is the only game I have on my phone. And it is the only game that my board gaming group plays on the phone against each other. And when we get together, still wants to pull out the board game to play the board game, even though we're all playing like different combinations of all of us, 3 different games of it all the time on our phone. That said, the Rising Sunset for Dominion, I just played Sunday for the first time. And the new game mechanics that, you know, every time there's a new Dominion set, he always adds some new game mechanic. The new game mechanics that he adds for that was phenomenal. I loved it. It is probably, Prosperity was my favorite set, but I think Rising Sun may have eclipsed Prosperity as my favorite set.
Nice. Eric, thank you for taking the time to talk to us and invite us into the store to see the space.
Hey, anytime. Thank you. It's always fun to talk about games with people.